Melissa Auf der Maur is here, and her birthday was yesterday. Mark Ronson is here. I don't know when his birthday is. But what's the most important thing is that you're all here. Join me in wishing Melissa a happy birthday. Don't sing, but just shout happy birthday on 3, 2, happy birthday! And clap like you've never clapped before for Melissa Auf der Maur and Mark Ronson.
After you. We are at a brewery. Okay. Mic stand. Here's the deal, I need this mic stand brought up to the proper level of my face. It turns out you need 2 hands and a higher mic to read. I need your help. I need it to come up.
All right.
Yesterday at the Strand, they Very good, Stephen. Thank you very much. I am not going to shout welcome to Brooklyn, but I'm going to say welcome to Brooklyn. And we had to add a second night because next thing we knew it, Strand had gone away, and Mark generously agreed to be the DJ. I'm starting by bringing you into the place called the book. Even the Good Girls Will Cry, a 90s rock memoir for my daughter River and all the girls. The turn of the millennium rarely happens in a lifetime. This is a story about the decade that defined me and my generation, 1991 to 2001. I would never wish for another time to become, oh my God, I have a typo? No. To come into my own womanhood, to become a woman. So, I'm fast forwarding. Chapter 35, First Loves Saved the Day, summer 1999. Give me an R.
R.
O.
O.
C.
C.
K.
K.
What you got?
Rock.
What we gonna do?
Rock.
You. Rock you. Okay. Over the summer of 1999, Hole toured across Canada as part of our outdoor summer festival called the Edge Fest, Canada's wannabe Lollapalooza. As the only international act on the bill, other than the Australian band Silverchair, a teen Kurt Nirvana lookalike band that was eerie to have next to us, we kicked off each of our sets with that Rock You by Helix, a Canadian one-hit wonder. All the other bands on the bill were Canadian, including the co-headliner, Moist. Yes, Moist Hole was the top of this bill, a joke that was not lost on anyone who got near that tour. Courtney, Eric, Samantha, and I were in top entertainment shape, having just spent weeks on giant festival tours around the world. For a couple of them, we co-headlined with Marilyn Manson. Since the 9 Inch Nails Self-Destruct tour in 1994, 5 years prior, these boys in their pleather goth garb had become kingpins of the mainstream goth rock world, even eclipsing their nin mentor, Trent Reznor, with alt-rock radio hits like Beautiful People from their 1996 album Antichrist Superstar, and their current album, Mechanical Animals, also produced by Michael Beinhorn and released that September, just days after Celebrity Skin, featured good, feel-good hits like The Dope Show and I Don't Like the Drugs, but the Drugs Like Me. The volatile pairing of our 2 bands made industry sense due to our album's commercial successes and our promotional cycle syncing up, and as usual, potential headlines. Artistically though, It was an unlikely marriage that brought out the worst from our outspoken, controversial front people. Manson, frontman Brian Warner, and Courtney played up their Beauty and the Beast persona and made for loads of drama. Plus, the level of drugs that surrounded the Manson band, in contrast to our newly sober, clean band, was concerning. Similar to when Courtney, the widow, who was booked on the Self-Destruct tour in 1994, we were yet again trapped with these ogres again. It wasn't good for anyone's mental health or physical health, to say the least. We had just been down under at the Big Day Out Festival with an eclectic lineup that focused, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Very good. An eclectic lineup that featured us alongside Marilyn Manson, Korn, Fatboy Slim, and Sean Lennon. Following that tour, we co-headlined with Marilyn Manson the Beautiful Monsters Tour, a U.S. arena tour. This one was supposed to extend for 2 months, but it was doomed from the start. It lasts just over 2 weeks, cut short by a variety of messy things, including financial disputes and a public feud between Brian and Courtney, which resulted in Hole pulling out of the tour early. Our last show, the Beautiful Monster Tour, took place at the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles, where Brian coincidentally twisted his ankle on his big platform boots on stage, and the tour ended there and then. Following that, we had a killer run, and actually genuinely one of the best runs we ever had as a band, of European early summer festivals and headlining shows, including a triumphant UK set at Glastonbury that we arrived at via helicopter with a brief sightseeing twirl above Stonehenge. Michael Stipe was with us because R.E.M. was headlining that night. On the Pyramid stage. Okay. Hole was scheduled in a perfect sunset slot, and we were at top-notch ability. We had come a long way since Reading 5 years earlier, my first concert with them. After the main stage sets were finished, I set out to explore late-night dance tent scene. Music had been changing so rapidly, I felt that I was witnessing the future of music at Glastonbury that night, or at least one that I could get behind. Fatboy Slim, who had grown to love on our Australian tour that year, seemed like the start of something shiny and bright coming out of all of this new technology that I had grown very suspicious of. When Fatboy Slim's song Right Here, Right Now kicked in, the sea of thousands started dancing in ecstasy. The image of a tent filled with sweaty, smiling Brits was glorious, and so different from what our alternative rock scene had been built on. They were turned inward, into themselves, ecstatic as a group, and led by one clever and humble man, Norman Cook, originally a bass player from the 80s band The House Martins that I had loved as a teen. An egoless, artistic, poetic, and electronic pioneer, to me, Cook represented what the future would be like without rock stars, but instead actual servants of sound who allowed us to tap into the music gods within ourselves. In that tent that day, I felt a glimmer of my dream of three-dimensional sound that I'd had as a teenager almost a decade before. Maybe we can transcend these egos and individual dramas and morph into a collective group, connected by music, I thought, my disenchanted rock heart filled with hope. I really fast-forwarded into 99 there, so I do apologize. There's a lot that happened before that.
One thing that my takeaway from this book, which I love so much, a lot of shots taken at Marilyn Manson. I was like, because you take the high road, I'm just like, God, I'm reading these things, I'm like, that might be the person that annoyed you absolutely the most in the 90s.
So strange you say that is actually...
And you wouldn't be the only person.
Yeah, but he didn't. It's just that what annoyed me was that whole... And we kept on being pushed
Put
with them
together, yeah.
as if the monster and the monster should be together. It made me annoyed.
Yeah.
Because it was not an obvious, other than the bad drama of things.
I thought you were going to be like, because actually, he's here. Brian, how are you? My bad, yeah. Okay, so I'm so glad that you asked me to do this because we kind of crossed paths really briefly in the 90s, but you were already like a rock star god, and I was just kind of geeked out to it.
Teenage DJ.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a thing that you say in the book, and there's so many great things that sort of in themes and a heavy emotional weight to this book, but one thing that you say on page 367, which kind of like encapsulates it all, a grunge Cinderella fable. I thought that was kind of great. So start at the beginning of going, I think one of the things that's just so full circle is like going to that first Smashing Pumpkins show that really kind of started it all, right? So tell us about that.
Well, the Cinderella story obviously is because of the beer bottle that was thrown at a punk rock club that changed my life was sort of like the glass slipper.
I didn't even think about that part too.
I
That's
understand,
incredible,
like, just this weird thing happened. My story of how I got into these giant rock bands is not normal. First of all, to give context, I had only been playing bass for a year. I had just bought my first bass in that year. I had played 6 rock concerts when I joined Hole and played in front of 65,000 people for my first show. So everything was like an A to Z Cinderella. I'm all of a sudden at the ball. I'm a child, basically. I'm a 22-year-old art student who was very wise for her age and had been working at clubs from about 15, 16. So Quebec is very lenient. I was going to clubs always. So that is, like, I was a grown-up person, but my love of music happened so fast and dramatically, and in 1991, in the summer, the Smashing Pumpkins were on their very first tour ever of anything. They barely had Gish out. I think they had a 7-inch out on Sub Pop, and they were playing in front of 20 people for $1, and my roommate's boyfriend began to be unimpressed by these abnormal grandiosity, and for me it filled a hole, which is I grew up in my mother's record collection of like the Beatles, Zappa. I had not had Sabbath, I had not had like riffs and psychedelia, and something happened that night at 19 years old that I heard something that was like in my deepest realm, and through this bizarre beer bottle that the guy next to me thought they said, drop the fucking attitude, through the beer bottle. I fell in love with the band. I introduced myself.
Billy Corgan says, like, for a guy playing for 20 people is like incredibly self-serious or something.
Exactly.
Right?
I have told the story too many times, but the fact is that he was playing like he was playing to an arena, which to me was shocking and exciting. Like I was like, what is this guy doing? And my punk rock friend was like, this is not cool. Who does this guy think he is? Threw a bottle. I then was the good girl and went and apologized, and we made friends. And then the rest just sort of like started banging out this like one beer bottle, and meeting this guy opened my musical heart. I decided I was going to start playing bass, and then we were pen pals, and then we got it just all happened very quickly.
And he was the person that recommended you to Courtney to join the Hall.
Yeah, so then there was the letter to the
Am I just being a dickhead repeating this like rock lore that everybody in here knows?
No.
Okay.
So, but it is that I then started my band, Tinker. I had a little band. I had played about 5 shows when I wrote to the Virgin Records P.O. Box, Dear Billy, remember me in the beer bottle. I would love to open up for you during your Siamese Dream tour. It's a huge, at that point they seemed like there was arena band. They were playing big venues, and he got the letter, and my band opened up. And again, that's sort of these little accidental things that happen, and in the A to Z is how it's a fable.
I think, like, as a kid who's like at 14 or however I was when I heard Gish, and there was like a lot of similarities in the way that we grew up and touchstones, which obviously I loved about this book. But I remember hearing Gish and being so blown away, and the only way my mom would let me go to rock concerts, because she was very strict in English, was I got this job writing for this bullshit high school paper, because I'd be like, I have to write for the paper. And then I told the editor all about, I'm like, this band, Smashing Pumpkins, is incredible, Gish, I'm gonna go. And then she heard it, and she fucking fell in love with it, and she was like, I'm taking the Billy Corgan scoop for City News, or whatever the hell this paper was. But anyway, but because I love that album so much, and because the riff, if you love that album of I Am One, like, lives in you, that the fact when that comes full circle at that moment, actually it's just such a beautiful passage. Why don't you read it, just 368, is that okay? Am I gonna make you like get up and down again? Yes, I Am One.
Oh, this is a fast. In the real life and in the story, I talk about the moment I hear this song and it changed. But then we fast forward to I'm in the band. I Am One, the opening track of Gish, was the song that the band had retaliated with after the beer bottle smashed against Billy's guitar and changed my life. We've got one more for you, Montreal, he had said that night, with more conviction than I'd ever witnessed a person embody on stage, in front of a sparse group of strangers, one of which just happened to have just attacked him. The rolling drum beat that opens I Am One is joined by an iconic two-note bass line, then joined by feedbacking guitars, and created a full band tackle of the signature pumpkin-style song. Playing I Am One for thousands aligned my cells with the inner dreams and passions for music like no other magic potion could. I found my center in this expanding, infinite universe for the first time, but only for a time. I'm only in that band for a year, but I do get to live that dream.
That's incredible to have just gone to that show, and that's the thing that makes you want to play and you do it.
Yes.
Okay, so we both wrote books. I wrote a book about the 90s. I mean, I wrote a book about New York, like sort of hip hop club scene. It's quite different.
It's
But
for sale there too.
I thought that as part of it came because I wanted to write about this time. I wanted to write about DJing the sing. And if one more fucking Gen Z kid came up to me and was like, "You were in New York in the 90s, holy shit!" And I was like, it made me realize that people cared about this. So what? In this retrospect of going, you do touch on it a bit, but what made this era, I guess you're kind of going to the early 2000s as well, and it's quite obvious why you wrote about this era, because you're writing about your time as a rock star. But what, looking back on the 90s and your scene, made it so special, and then kind of, then, like you said, in that passage you read, made it kind of go less special?
Well, obviously everybody knows that the rising capitalist tentacled creepazoid tech people have ruined parts of our life. So the lack of that is what makes it so special, and a big part of writing the book is both for personal healing / revisiting the magic within me and within that time, for me and for all people. So I want to go back to fall in love with the innocent person who was a teenager who fell in love with music, who then found her way to do this, and through that corporate passageway of the 90s, which by the way was just a precursor to, oh my goodness, corporate passageway tentacle freakout that we live in now. And that to me, the combination of, I had lost my innocence by 2001 because of major labels, us being treated like cans of Coke, co-opted our entire scene, sucked up all of our magic, people died. Yes, there, it was like a popular drug that made people die, but the souls were sucked out of a very visceral, magical group of broken poet freaks who had so much power of like self, and then that magic was bottled and sold, and people lost their souls. And I truly, a big part of the book is me mapping that so that we can try to map our way back to more, I mean, it's not that I am nostalgic for the 90s. I love humanity, and I don't want our humanity threatened by capitalistic, ridiculous ways of life and lose the magic of art and music. I answer that?
Yeah, hell yeah. I guess, you know, for a lot of people, in some ways there was like this, there was pre-Nevermind and post-Nevermind,
Yeah.
and you even talk pretty viscerally in the book about the moment you heard Nevermind, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be the thing. Now, obviously you didn't say this is the thing that's going to become the end as well of it, but just tell me, because, yeah. Yeah, tell me about it, because it's nice, and I don't want to paraphrase in a shitty way. So hearing Nevermind, what was...
Did you magically, what are these cool notes? Like, did you actually...
These are just like...
Is there like a cool
Be
passage
funny.
about that?
No. Already failing it. I wrote things down about
Yeah.
the things that we could touch on for the
Yeah,
book, and
there's
hopefully
a
we'll get to half of
chapter
it.
called The Song That Changed Everything, and it's 1991, so I've already just seen the pumpkins, the flame has been lit, I am going to join the ranks of my generation and play an instrument and get out there and be the zeitgeist that is happening. And so I had already felt this magic happening, and by the way, important also because we both have cool mothers. She took your article. My mother was the first female rock disc jockey in the Montreal airwaves, so I grew up with an amazing record collection, and to me, her records and her time she spent with them, the stories she told me about them, those were the fables, like the fairy tales of, wow, that's the guy who drowned in a pool. These are, like, it was a magical realm, her world of music. And I was just...
Which guy? There are a lot of guys.
Between the buttons,
Okay.
to the Rolling Stones cover.
Okay.
I always remember Brian Jones's face from her saying that, with her finger pointing at his face. No, so I was looking for my people. You know, I could see my mother had her people. I was, in my early teens, it was the Smiths and the Cure, and I was a real 80s. I mean, I went to clubs at a young age, and hearing Sisters of Mercy and Depeche Mode was like everything. That started, but then when the beginning of the sort of early Bleach, so like in 89, I started morphing into rock. Then by the time I hear the Pumpkins, I just know, whoa, my people are coming. I'm gonna do it. I found it. We're finding our voice. This is our moment now. So I got to, you know, I just like wanted to be in with the next generation. And then the night that I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit, the DJ at this big club that I was a ticket girl at, was playing it to an empty room. It was like, had just come in. It was like before doors or something. And I was like walking down the hallway and I heard the thing. And I went into a bathroom stall and I felt the world change. And I describe it in the book, where I'm in the bathroom stall and I hear the entire song. I'm like, what is this? What is this? This is not, and I like stormed down the hallway after listening to it and like banged on the cage, like, what was that? And then he picks up the 12-inch and I like, it's like all shiny and glossy, but I kind of see maybe the guy with the blonde hair from like the Bleach album. I'm like, what? And I go into the cage and like stormed up to the promoter's office. I'm like, do we have an advance copy of this? What is happening? This is a whole new record? They're like, oh yeah, we have the advance cassette. It's at my apartment. The next morning I go to the blank cassette and I tape to tape the advance of Nevermind. I go home, I sit in my bedroom. I'm like, okay, well, everything's different now. Now we have it. Now where it's good. And it was terrifying because I was like, this is crazy. Everyone's gonna like this. Like we have lost, like this is now everybody's,
Right.
And our secret is now going to live forever. And I spent, as my cassette DJ days where I would I played Nevermind on odd reverse for a week straight. I was like, don't even stop, you don't understand. And I would bring special friends home to listen to it alone. And we'd have a conversation. I said, what's going to happen now? Like, this is not big.
It's true, you told me, you're like, have a conference, like, you guys know the future's coming. But I think also, thinking about it now, and obviously it's something about that sound, because it sounded so massive in Butch Vig's production that Kurt almost disowned it, like he wanted to go the other way after, because he felt, obviously had conflicting feelings about the success. But it must have been crazy to hear. I mean, I'm sure I probably heard it for the first time on like 120 minutes or something, but being into these things that were charming and punk and had this like visceral power, but not that big sound is like, it must have been fucking crazy hearing it.
Because it literally, when I don't even really, now that we're talking about it, you're a producer, I am intelligent, but it's like, I've been thinking, like, what is it that
Can I be intelligent?
I'm not as good in the studio as you are,
Right.
but I know there are things called tubes, and there are tape, so it's more than I have not really thought about the technical reason why. But recently, because I've been talking about this a lot, it is that thing, like Butch Vig and just enough of a budget, enough of a tape machine, enough of it just like upped it, and then he guided them to clean. So it's just that whatever magical moment that happened where like a very magical band that was rough around the edges gets illuminated and changes everything.
Actually, jumping a little bit ahead, but it's such an interesting part of the book because I don't know if anybody's written about it, like in the context of memoir too. Is whole when you're making the Celebrity Skin record, you have this really unique thing of being on the precipice of when all music went from analog to digital. So there's this incredible, like, I mean, you're going in the studio, going to make this record. You're so, well, you should tell it, not me,
No,
but...
you actually, I kind of like, yes, keep going.
Okay, so Michael Beinhorn, he's this huge producer, he's done Bad Motorfinger or whatever, and he's like, we're gonna get the best guy to produce our new record, it's gonna be super slick, and you go in, and then after you play your fire bass takes out, which actually, but you realize your drummer is gonna be replaced by a hot LA session drummer, Patty. And then and then you're playing your stuff and you murder these takes, but then you find out it's going to go to some lab somewhere and be autocorrected
in a toaster, in a weird thing the size of a toaster. All of a sudden I see these slick dudes walking out of this like $1 billion studio with a like little box. I was like, what is that? They're like, oh, they're going to the studio up in the hills. There's a thing called Pro Tools too. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I go, I have this chapter that I will be reading in Toronto on Friday, but it's called My Bass and the Rise of the Digital Soul-Sucking Monster, summer 1997. And I act all innocent. I'm like, oh wow, cool. Can I go see this like cool toaster machine thing you got? Like, go up to this what looks like a Miami Vice Coke lair, and there's like many men with slick black hair working at many computers. I'm like, wait, so what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, Melissa, let me show you your bass line. And they're like, show me this, like, well, you know, the visual was cool. Like, I was kind of interested in this, like, blob that represented the dynamics. And the guy says to me, so, yeah, we're going to move it so it lines directly with the kick drum. First of all, there's, like, a weird man with a mullet who has replaced my cool punk rock girl drummer. So there's this perfect machine guy who comes in, plays all of her parts. She writes them all. This weird guy plays the thing. I play the best I've ever played. I'm told so as well. And then I find out that they're like, you're just shifting it a little bit. And I ask this like random guy who's showing me this machine, I'm like, wait, what do you mean what about like the human touch? Isn't that an important thing here? It's like, Beinhorn likes it perfect. I'm like, what about imperfect is perfect? I don't understand. And so that's when, like, in the end of that chapter, I just like get into my 1969 Mercury Cougar, and I like hear this like cool chugging. I'm like, fuck, the future is lame. It's not gonna be fun. This is crazy. They're gonna make everything plastic and perfect, and then there's gonna be girls with filters that make their face fake. What is happening? And eyes big and lips big? What is happening? I mean, that can be fun, I guess, for someone.
It's crazy because it's probably something like any musician or anybody who even listens to music now just takes for granted. We all know what a waveform is, we know what the music is, but like to have been there at that moment when nobody knew, and also now you can do this on your laptop or your iPhone and correct a drum or bass performance, not that anyone would want to, in seconds. But then there was like 1,000 people on, $100,000 computers doing it, and you're at this thing. But I did think that
$3 million record.
that
we had already
$3 million,
spent that much
holy
on
shit.
like the fanciest studios and the fanciest mics, ribbon mics for days, endless, and then they're gonna go put it in a thing this big and like make it better? It made no sense. I mean, I'm not saying there's not positive things that have happened with technology and you can make cool music. Electronic music is cool. I just read a passage about that actually. It's about Fatboy Slim. And there is cool things that can happen.
No.
It's just the abuse of it and the loss of the magic, which is what we're trying to get to.
I'm with you. And then, but there's some also kind of nice things. There's one of the things I really like that this book does. You talk about certain experiences in the recording studio, like with Rick Ocasek, we talk about that. But with Beinhorn, for all his like slick LA, everything has to be perfect. The record that you guys make does sound awesome, and there's also the thing when you're doing the vocals and the harmonies. That's always something in the book when you're singing, you kind of feel like you get to contribute.
Yes, so the choir girl gets to contribute and gets to rap mermaid, glassy siren songs around the growl of the misunderstood demon witch. It's fun. That is a cool part of my role in Whole, and it's also a great, a lot of the book, which we haven't touched on yet, is the reframing of Courtney Love and of my place in not just the history of 90s rock and women in rock, but like all history of all women. This is like a larger story way beyond the 90s and rock, but I'm using our story and her, how the world treated her, and my, let's call me a sober witness, a very, very believable person who actually watched everything close up and saw how injustice, the misogyny of the 90s, even though it was apparently like the ladies' power decade, Sex in the City, weird things like that, Lilith Fair, but like it was this illusion of this like woman's power time, and then they like are just burning this lady at the stake and saying she killed her husband, and she's a single mother, widow, with a drug problem and no parents, and actually no managers like really helping. This is the most upsetting thing, and that's back to I'm a human. I actually like want humanity to be good, and so a big part of this is like reclaiming and framing that story.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how intentional that was setting out, because it is the thing that that really left this book with, like feeling the visceral power of Courtney, feeling your love for her, feeling this kind of like more than anything I've ever read about her. It was like you're giving her flowers in some ways, but in a very no holds barred way. And I just wanted to know how much, because you put letters that she wrote you in here, like the letter when you quit Whole and then what she writes back to you. You're pretty unsparing of yourself of when she thinks you're becoming a little superficial, and she writes you a letter saying like don't get caught up in all the thing. But how much did you, I guess when you started this book, you're like, I'm gonna fix like what the world thinks of Courtney Love.
Yeah, and also the 5 years I gave of my life to that band, and it's for all women, it's for me, it's for her, it's for my daughter, it's for just everybody. For my daughter's generation to go into Urban Outfitters and only see Nirvana, I actually think sucks. Like, I think there should also be a presence of like women who made amazing music in rock that is not present, and I know why it's not, because it's like difficult, and she did not help herself all these things, so that's part of
No, but there's amazing passages in here, like both the good times and how much she believed in you, and then you're talking about like her stage diving at shows and being literally like ripped apart in a way that like Eddie Vedder is not going to. Did you show her, at what point did you show her the book? I'm curious, because she comes off as kind of agreeable at the same time, like she's understanding when you quit. But I wonder what it was like for her for you to send this book to her.
I don't even think she's read it, but we've talked about it a lot.
She definitely skipped to her part, like all famous people. Like, am I in here?
Well, she actually did justify. I sent a copy to her manager, maybe didn't get it to her, and then she was like, last week, where's my copy? I'm like, long story is we've talked about it a lot, and there's an unspoken trust. Put that that way. There is just, I sang on a record last year. I told her, it's in with the editors, everything's great. She doesn't need to probably even know. Maybe she'll come across it. And it's more that she knows I have her back, and she has always respected me to do my own thing. And that when I left, she did not want me to leave. She certainly didn't want me to leave her for her ex-boyfriend, Billy, and go play in some other dude band, but her letter explains all of that. she wants good for me, but she wants her stock of whole to be respected. And I actually am acting on that too, is I feel like I should help I don't know how you say it, reevaluate the stock of that band,
Yeah.
because it was forgotten. I say so much that Hole's history like lives in the gutters of YouTube. And if you go there, there's some really cool stuff. There's a chapter in here called Warrior Goddess. I wrote the entire book from memory, shockingly, even though I have all my diaries, all my photos, but I downloaded it like a waterfall. And the only time I didn't is for the Warrior Goddess chapter. There's in October of 1994, I've been in the band 2 months, Chicago, legendary venue called the Metro. ABC.
I played there with Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, I played
You
bass.
two have a similar.
Yeah. So he's
Am I
funny.
on Jimmy Fallon right now?
No.
No.
Oh.
You could be a late. You're very classy that way.
I produced a comedy album for him in the early 2000s, and he wanted to go on tour, and I said, I'll get you the best band, like, Sammy from Gorilla Biscuits, and no, he's like, no, my band has to be bad, like, my songs are like, and I was like, well, can I play then? So, yeah, so we played the Metro, but sorry, back to you.
It's more that there is, for those who go into the gutters of YouTube, there's an ABC News 5-camera shot, really well recorded. The entire set of this show at the Metro is there, and I watched it over and over. In this chapter, I wanted to bring you, the reader, onto the stage in my position, just a few feet to the right of the woman, with the audience that was in the wake of, between Kurt's death and there was, that is the question a lot in the book, is what the audience is getting from us, receiving, what is happening in this moment of rock history, what is happening with this widow and the the Jesus Christ of our generation gone. There was a very complicated energy happening, and there was this audience is like, some of it's like just kids who are alone in the room and come for this, others who are watching a car crash, others that are there to like scream, show us your tits. It's so complicated what is happening. So I try to bring the reader into one show, and luckily for YouTube, it exists there, and it's an amazing concert that shows her power, but also I forgot how much she relied on me as this like, not a sidekick, it's like a straight man.
You're her foil.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to
Yeah.
catch all these
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
She's like, River Phoenix, well, I'm like, well, yes,
Yeah.
River Phoenix. Like, it's like there's so much going on between her brain and the people.
You
and the
say
song.
that like no one else in the band is really allowed to talk in between song, Patty and Eric. It's really you.
Well,
Like,
I'm the
she's
only
like-
one with a mic because I sing, and she'll like turn
Right.
to me.
Right.
And I have excerpts of my father, who is an amazing writer. He's a journalist. He's writing about coming on tour with me, and I had never noticed really until I was looking at his writing to include in the book, and then I watched this show, is that she would introduce me, and I'm brand new, more than the other people who had been with her through the tragedies. It's like I represented this like new fresh start, and like, okay, cool, this girl, she can keep up, or I don't know what it was, but it was a complicated, that's when I describe in the book a lot, which again is sort of playing out for all women in all things, like the good girl to the bad girl, the virgin whore complex. We were it, and we were playing out this archetypical, lifelong, centuries old thing of like how we learned from each other and what we reflected back to the listeners or the audiences. So, but in that show, you really see that. And you asked what question?
I don't know. I just love the portrait of Courtney is really strong. I love how she's when she writes back to you when you quit the band, she's like, I understand, I think you're making a mistake. She obviously doesn't want to lose you. But then there's like this very gangster thing, but you will protect and respect the image of this band. It's like the royal family, the firm. So you will not say anything about leaving this band till I prepare my statement, because you will preserve, you will only make me look like I will only come out of this looking on top, not that you left me because our band is inferior to Smashing Pumpkins. The super gangster.
Great paraphrasing. I couldn't have even done it myself because I'm still sort of like trying to understand what happened. Like,
Yeah.
I use her words in this book, so I paint a very clear picture. I am not, candy coating. She did have abscesses on her ass. This is not like, she's amazing. It's a difficult, tragic situation, and she grows with the book to be a Hollywood movie star who does get clean and does all the things she transforms over the course of that strange moment of my time with her, but her career. And by the end of the book, I used these 2 letters of hers. It's the only thing I had to get approval for in this book is, Courtney, can I use your beauty manifesto du jour, which was around the peak of our beauty and our magazine spreads and all that. She wanted to tell me a thing or two that she knows about beauty. And like, I had mainly kind of been casted as like the pretty girl in the band, and I was getting all like, it was suffocating and actually not, and I wasn't happy. And I was sort of hollowing out, and I'm gonna take a poll, because last night at the Strand, like I got like anybody listen to the Billy Corgan podcast? Wow, fascinating! This is fascinating. Interesting, very different crowd. Are people here Hole fans?
Yes.
See what I'm talking about? Yes. So, anyway, on that podcast, I called myself an evaporating princess a couple of weeks ago, because I just sort of, when you're in the public eye and you're having a photo taken and you're just like have to show up for like a photo shoot and like 5 shows when you want to play music every day, and you're like I had a hollow existence compared to what I was when I was a hard-working young artist who just was going to make music every day. So I use her words to show the reader just how smart she is, and also to give her the stage of show how noble and generous, because those letters, when they were given to me then, I was already so like arm's length. I don't trust anybody. These crazy major labels, these managers don't care. She wants to be a Hollywood movie star. I want to play music. Get me out of here. I did not see the beauty of these letters till 20 years later. Like, I really didn't understand how generous, how noble, how intelligent she was.
What that letter that you're talking, one of the letters kind of stuck with me, because it's like you're pretty honest. You're like, yes, I was getting caught up in this superficial thing. I was suddenly the pretty girl in pole. And there's a video that you talk about where she kept wanting to put a shot of you picking your nose or something, and you were like, I'm not into this. Like, this is not how I want to be perceived. And that was like, but you kind of go from the beginning being such a fan and saying I related more to the fans than my own bandmate, to suddenly becoming a rock star and this kind of thing.
So
but you seem to pull yourself out of it.
Well, yeah, I left like both bands decidedly to have a life that was real, or my own was the big thing. Coming out of shadows is what I worked really hard to do. I also have larger-than-life parents that I give big ode to. My parents in my city, Montreal, are everything as to why I am at all cool or interesting. And so my parents were already epic, hard to live up to. And I worked to get out, and then I got into the shadow of my grunge parents. I worked to get out, and now I sit on a couch with Mark Ronson, and apparently we are wrapping up this conversation to do Q&As, but I don't know.
Okay,
What time is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't want to gloss over Montreal or your family either, because obviously you have these incredible parents. Your dad, who I knew nothing about coming to this book, like, of course you fall in love with your dad reading this book.
I am very proud to say that my father, who died 27 years ago while I was in Hull making Celebrity Skin, very tragically, very sadly, very tortured, brilliant person, he kind of comes across as big of a character in this book as Courtney, and that means I achieved something. I honored my father. No one knew him other than, a few people who know me and him, but I really wanted to work hard to show a larger-than-life character that I could show that's also how I could handle Courtney and why Courtney is easy for me. Because my father was quite radical. Larger than life, walks in a room, you listen.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of cue for me, so it's really on you.
What time is it? It's a minute to 8. Oh, no, we have.
Yeah, okay, well that's good. Okay, there's plenty of amazing shit I want to talk about. Okay, so your dad, let's go back to it for a minute, because you say that nobody knows him except a few people, but like he's this beloved journalist in Montreal, like he has like essentially what's like a statesman's funeral, right? 3,000 people come when on the cover of the paper the next day. It's like, you're Montreal's daughter, so.
Yeah.
Tell me about writing and why it's so beloved, and just like paint a little bit, even though everybody's going to read it in the book.
Yes, I often, because I've been doing interviews for the past couple of weeks or months, is that how was I so capable of stepping into the public eye of this Cinderella? All of a sudden I'm on stage, all of a sudden I'm on MTV. Because my life back home prepped me for it on a tiny scale. My father was the unofficial mayor of Montreal. He ran downtown Montreal, but he started as a copy boy at a newspaper, son of immigrants, absolutely nothing, and built his name to be one of the finest names in Montreal, which a man who fights for the people. That's all my father did, was try to represent through broadcasting, journalism, and politics. And he had a column that narrated my entire childhood. My father wrote for the Montreal Gazette for 30 years, till the day he wrote his last column a month before he died, about feeling the presence of death. His whole life and my childhood is chronicled in this man's effortless storytelling ways. So I grew up in the public eye in a very uniquely loving way, because it wasn't like creepy royal family. What was so cool is it was like a guy who just loved life so much that he shared everything with his readers. But I was his only family, because my mother and father had like a one-night stand. He came in later. He didn't know I was born. He came on as like this cool guy in my life, and he never would have had a family. And I was his only child, his only heir, and we were like friends. But I grew up in his public realm, and he was an amazing writer, and he's definitely the humanity side. My mother's the music side of me, and my father is like the tell your story, get out there, don't take shit from anyone, even though I'm very polite. This is a good example because we're in such political crisis in the world. My father, I would go with him door to door, and I'd be at the campaign headquarters, like waiting for the telephone to come in. How many votes? Is he going to win? Is he going to lose? And I was always so nervous for him because I'd see how stressed everybody was. And I remember one night saying, "Why do you do this, Nick?" And he said, "Because I'm not going to trust those assholes to do it." So he did it for the right reason. People.
There's also a really powerful, there's a lot for all the 90s and what it's like to be a bass player and a rock god and all these things. There's some really powerful emotional moments in it. And there's, like you said, you believe this narrative your whole life about your parents. And they having this one night stand, and then they just decided to amicably co-parent but not be together, and then you discover all these letters of your dad's after he passes.
Yeah.
It's kind of
My mother even erases that part of the book. She doesn't. My father would never stop loving my mother. My mother left him. He was an alcoholic. I was a daughter of an alcoholic. He needed help, and he just gave himself to the people, and that's also why he prepped me so well to be in a band of drug addicts. Unfortunately, is that my compassion and deep love for people who struggle with addiction is, just permanent in me. And my father, even though I always say, "Oh, he was a happy drunk," but it's true. But there was a deep conflict inside, and because he died at 55, he smoked and drank constantly, and it was a lifestyle of the times, but on his deathbed, he had nothing to say about his entire legacy, his career, nothing. Just find the red cigar box in my shoes, in my sock drawer, and it was every letter he'd ever received and written from my mother, and Yeah, heartbreaking love story, actually. And my mother and I can't even talk about it to this day. Because she left, they were together for a year after blah, blah. He was heartbroken and sort of like, so there is a heartbreak in my life, but there are in most of the characters in this book, actually.
Addiction is definitely a theme that runs through it. I mean, every era, 70s, 80s, has like these horrible, beautiful, tragic casualties. But something about the 90s, you talk about mortal versus the ethereal.
Oh yeah.
What is that? I thought it was
The
beautiful to read
duality, very interesting. I mean, I my birthday was yesterday, as you know. I am a Pisces, and we just discovered you're a Virgo. We're polar opposites. You're Earth, I'm water. You probably don't even think about astrology.
Not a lot. I don't have the same birthday as Beyonce. Does that mean anything? My
Does she think about astrology? Well, there seems to have been, actually, I think I could just pull this up. It's easier for me to say this, and it's actually kind of a good place to end, is I weirdly went on my NPR station, page 89. So I live in upstate New York, and we have a really cool active NPR station up there called WAMC. Joe Donahue, the Round Table, and I did like an amazing hour-long talk with him this week. And because they've watched me as an upstate New York, like building neighborhoods. Tony and I, my husband, have an art center called Basilica Hudson. I've devoted since I've been a mother to give back to alternative culture and to have a venue for up-and-coming artists and farmers markets and flea markets. And I go onto my local NPR station for this like hour-long deep dive, and he starts with this. He reads me this passage, which I thought was very, so he's not a Virgo, I bet you.
It was.
Sorry. Pisces represents the end of the life cycle, connecting the material world to the afterlife and the divine. The sign is symbolized by two fish tied to each other's tails, one swimming upstream and the other one downstream. This duality would come to define me even more than the narratives and details of my mortal life. I have always been torn between the mortal and the ethereal sides of myself. How to live on both sides? This inner conflict has always defined me, and I was beginning to believe it defined my generation. So this end of a life cycle thing of Pisces, of like you're bye-bye mortal, hello divine, I think that's what happened in the turn of the millennium only happens once in a million years? 1,000? More than a million. I really believe that one of the powerful things about our antennas of alt rock people at that moment, and then the DJs came in and did, the electronic thing changed it, was sort of the tiny bridge to what was the birth canal to the 21st century, and it was painful. We knew we were morphing. We knew it wasn't going to be the same on the other side. We left our earthly bodies, and now we live in a hybrid? Where do we live? I mean, it's like we are morphing with machines, there's no doubt. We are going to have to rally together, which is why we're here at the Brooklyn Brewery. Thank you, Brooklyn Brewery. Thank you, Word, for keeping books alive. And thank you to young musicians playing music every day, is that we actually have a responsibility to keep the fiber of what makes humans alive the way we lived for thousands of years before the morphing and the algorithms and the addiction to these pathways that are being... So that's why I'm on this book tour and why I wrote it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that duality is healthy because you pointed out earlier, I mentioned death 3 times upstairs.
Yeah.
And it's more than I think that it's important for us to admit what has been lost.
Yeah.
That grief is healthy and important, but grief is a beast and it is mysterious, and everyone has felt it in different ways, but I think we've lost something and we have to live in a healthy awareness of the grief that and what we are now living in and how we can direct the future and for the questions that are coming. Is there a way to, how are we doing it, Sasha? Oh, Stephen, how about the word? The man of the book is more gregarious on the mic than I thought you'd be.
Keep it going, Melissa Auf der Maur. You've got questions, I've got a microphone. Who's closest to me right now?
You were the first question asked. So cool. At a movie screening, I was like, it's going to be good. Give me this question. Because you're right, we didn't talk about that because Virgo was interviewing me.
What's happening?
Well, first, thank you for such a beautiful, beautiful reading and presentation. It's just magical to hear and extraordinary to witness because you united both your parents, literary and musical. And so, bravo. This is my question. You began and ended your presentation referencing the turn of the millennium. And especially as I was listening to you at the end, I thought to myself, based on everything that came before it and the different awakenings you experienced in Glastonbury, in Montreal, and at other times in life, it seems like you, if I could put it in this way, retold the precessing of the equinox from Pisces into Aquarius. You witnessed the age of Aquarius. You were there at the cusp. And so I really would like you to talk about that.
I want you to talk about it, actually. But this is a magical, mystical man. He's written books. But this man, Mitch, should be the one telling us about it. It's more that I intuit all of this. I'll tell you an example of, I do not rely on astrology. I just feel things that are bigger than my body on planet Earth that tell me what to do. And in this book, I talk a lot about dreams and fateful moments and humans that just like speak to me, and I just know I have to do it. So it's not about making sense. But I think, yes, the age of Aquarius and the shift, it's an exciting shift, correct? Right? Yeah, I mean, it's a transcendental moment. We are, like, I am like sad and mad about machines, but I also, in the back of my mind, I'm like, so cool, because then we become spirits. It's gonna be so amazing, because then we're gonna be so past our body that we're just gonna be these spirits flying around. So it is exciting, but it's a long game as far as this evolution in the age of Aquarius, and then being a Pisces, whether it is because I read, but I felt stuff before I read stuff. I felt these things that then resonated when I read mythology or I read, I defend astrology by saying it's just a really cool caricature arc. It is like hero's journey. And each one of us have a hero's journey within us, and then it's just a matter of which one is this life going to be a little bit more like. This is not answering your question, but I'm happy you brought it up.
Hey, Melissa.
Hey, the audiobook engineer is here.
Hi. Fabulous book.
I cried.
I know. It's a journey making an audiobook. Anyways, tell us more about the photos in the book and how essentially just being witness to all this translates into the photos, along with how I know there's a connection with your mom about taking portraits and documenting.
Yeah, my
the
mother was
times.
amused. Well, my mother was. I grew up in an apartment lined with naked photos of my mother. Beautiful nude photos, art photos of my mother.
I believe I grew up in a Jewish family. That does not happen.
Yeah. So there was a lot of nude, beautiful photos of my mother growing up, black and white. And actually, all of the men who photographed her ended up training me in the darkroom. Photography was my first love. I just assumed I'd be a photographer, which seemed like very sensible, and that music would be a passionate thing on the side. And then when I was invited to join Whole, I did say no originally because I was going to do my master's in photography. Why would I join this rock band? So photography is a parallel playing, and for of those here that might like the 90s, and my lens on it is I do have a companion book coming out in 6 months, which is my photography book. So my 90s photography, I'm very excited. And it's an exhibit as well in Toronto at a ginormous, beautiful museum. And I've now officially scanned my 15,000 negatives from the 90s. I photographed every crowd, every backstage. Anyone who was there would remember I was taking pictures all the time. So I finally got it scanned, and in the book there's 50 never before seen, only black and white, because I mainly shot in color, but I wanted there to be a visual accompaniment. I refused to have like that like shiny like insert. Like they were very nice, the publishers, thank you. So there's photos throughout, and I bring you on a little visual journey in parts of my archive as well as my photography. But the big explosion is coming in September with the photo book. And to answer your question, is that when seeing those beautiful photos of my mother and then meeting these men who showed me in the darkroom how to like print, I kind of morphed it similar to when she was pointing to like the boys in the band. It's like, right, so I'm the girl in the picture, and I'll be the person taking the picture, and I'll be in the band, and I'll take a picture of the band. It really was like I just morphed it all together. Am I going to be all of it? I'm not going to have like, because she also raised me saying, no man will ever define who you are. Never let a man define. So I go, okay, cool. So I'll take the picture. I'll be in the band. I'll do it all. Okay.
It's also super cool because a lot of the pictures in here are like, selfies before we had a name for it. And I'm sure, of course, people were taking pictures of themselves with pointing to the thing, but it's such an intimate thing with you on these giant stages, and the pictures in here, it's really lovely and artful, and the pictures that you take of yourself, that like, there's one with like a slatted like light. There's just a like
that
not
was
just
my art school days, I mean, I went to school for selfies. I went to fine art school for self-portraiture. It was a real art form, and it was a big deal when women take their own agency of their own bodies. So that's what I was doing in art school, and then it turned into me on stage, and it evolved. Thank you for asking about photography.
Yeah, I can probably just hear you.
I have excuse me. Since we're here in New York, my question is, what are your memories of the best gigs that you had in New York? What were the clubs you liked, the place, best venues? For me, in the 90s, it was Tramps, long lament too. But what do you remember of the gigs that you played here?
So I basically hung out at Don Hills and Max Fish, and I never played a club. I loved going to shows at Bowery, which is still there. But by the time I joined those bands, I was in big, funny, like, Randall's Island and stuff. But as a person who moved to New York in the 90s from Montreal, I lived next to the Cherry Tavern. I went to Max Fish. Oh, Brownies. A lot of cool shows on Avenue A. A lot of, there was so many. Isn't there a good Pyramid Club? So much.
They're all gone.
Is everything, they're all
Yeah,
gone?
they're all
Is
here.
Niagara?
They're all in Brooklyn.
Niagara's still here?
Yeah, but it's not the same.
No, it's called Black and White.
Yeah, it's all not different.
But there was,
I hear them.
as somebody who was not a rock star in the 90s, I remember the Marquee was incredible. That's what you saw every band like Blur and everything on their first show. And obviously CDs was still great.
Urban Plaza, is that still there?
Urban Plaza.
That's cool.
The Roxy, the Roxy.
Coney Island High was fucking awesome. Wetlands. I saw Rage Against the Machine's first show there. My voice hadn't broken yet, and Zach De La Rosa put the mic in my mouth, and I was like, fuck yeah, we'll do it, it's screamed into that fucking mic.
I saw that.
Roseland.
Oh, Roseland, thank you.
Yeah.
I played there many times.
Right.
That was amazing.
Bigger venue.
And I actually came across a photo of it because I took photos of all those shows. And I just recently, in like the bellies of my archive, found like an empty Roseland photo from the stage that I took at the sound check. And I remembered that it had that bouncing floor. So I saw this like wood floor. I'm like, right, it was a ballroom, and it had like this cool bouncing floor that would change the experience of the bands.
They have
But
roller
is
skating.
that like there?
No.
Is that like a condominium?
Something else.
Like it's
Manhattan's
gone?
gone.
Yeah. Sad. But it's all here in Brooklyn, I guess, so that's good.
That's true. It's expanded. Any other I have the
see
mic
this.
over here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you were here last night. Did you ask me a question last night?
I did.
Okay, yeah, no, ask me.
I'm just curious, it's actually sort of related to that. You
Yeah.
mentioned more so yesterday that you have this really rich archive
Yeah.
from the 90s, and I'm curious about any favorite physical objects or pieces of memorabilia from this era that you have.
I still have dozens and dozens of unprocessed film and hundreds and hundreds of unshot film. So that's a cool. Actually, I'm starting a collaboration with Kodak. Someone just like, because I have like, we just reached out to Kodak. We're trying to bring film back. Remember, that's another problem. All along, that's a problem. But I actually am going to do a deal with them where I look at all my old film and shoot all of my old film and see what happens. So I don't know, film is important because you can't even buy it anywhere. This man, then a lady with the puffy fuzz jacket.
So, I remember what was happening at the same time
Yes, where?
in upstate New York, where the National Women's Rights Convention was being recognized by the U.S. government.
What year? In the 90s?
Well, from 82 all the way to 99, and to the future. That it was fought against. It was supported by the Carter administration and then fought against the Reagan administration.
We're talking, you hear this is about the women's Rights Museum in upstate New York.
Right.
It's in Seneca Falls. And you're describing that in the 90s, it was like barely, there was a fight to recognize that as a historic important location.
Right.
And so you're saying parallel to that,
Parallel.
America was trying to like define its women's place in
Women's
history. Right.
And it was fought against the Reagan administration.
Oh, Reagan liked capitalism and didn't like women's rights? Wow, that is such a weird combo.
Right. And ever since that setback, help from Ellen Alda, but ever since that setback, it struggled to be recognized.
Yeah.
I would dare say that most women's rights around the world are still struggling to be recognized,
Right.
and we're like the lucky ones that are having to worry about our neighboring provinces, and what's called states, provinces. And I'm worried about our neighboring countries, actually.
Right. And upstate New York has more recognition to Canada than it does to New York City.
Right.
Yes, that's the other point, thank you, Mark, is women's rights never to be taken for granted. No woman's safety and no woman's rights should ever be taken for granted any day. There is a woman with a mic, and I know that if you still have a question.
Hi. So I know obviously you've been part of very prolific bands, but I would love to know more about the process of your solo albums, and also if Taste You in French will ever be back on Spotify, because I love the French versions of your songs.
Maybe I'll save that for book number 2. I might. I mean, I do, just so people, you have not read the book, but it ends in 2001. Y2K, 9/11, I'm living in the Chelsea Hotel, the end of the world as we know it has arrived. I end consciously there because the 90s were obviously a big chunk anyway, and ended up being much longer than I had been commissioned to write. But in that decade after the 90s, I tried to continue to come out from under the shadows, and I made a couple of records. And I was just thinking recently, because I'm so grateful for you and the people who have read this book, that care, that have bought the book. I really am moved by what a response I've been giving. We had to add this second night because the other one sold out before we even announced it, so I don't even know how that. I am so grateful that it turns out the bass player does have something to say, which I always knew, but I'm glad. I think time is working in my favor. And I recently thought, I'm like, oh, maybe they'll like my records. It's kind of out of sync. Like I made a record in in 2004 that sounded like what I liked in the 90s, but everything sounded different in 2004. So it didn't even and I went on the greatest, did anyone here go to the Curiosa tour? Okay, Robert Smith, yes? Robert Smith from The Cure personally curates the coolest festival in America, 2004. It's a Lollapalooza have you even heard of this? Yes, exactly. Okay, this is the bill. The Cure, Muse, Interpol, Mogwai, The Rapture, Melissa Auf der Maur. It was the coolest. The bill was insane. The event, we were playing those sheds like Lollapalooza, half empty. Not one American music magazine showed up. The Enemy were there. We were on the cover of every British magazine. America totally, I don't know what happened, and however old you were in 2004, I guess were you rising in the ranks of DJ dance music?
I love that you keep saying this. I don't really make dance music.
No, you make people dance. But that was the moment.
No, I just released a record that sold 15 copies on Elektra. So it wasn't really until I met Lily Allen and Amy Winehouse the next year that 2006 that anything really happened for me. But I remember 2004 because, not to be funny or flip, I was DJing a lot and I loved, that was early DFA, that was LCD, that was The Rapture, and there was good British indie, but pop music sucked. Music as a whole was kind of in a real
But everything you just said is danceable. The danceable, I'm not saying dance music you make house music, maybe you make everything, but things that people dance to seem to be what was happening, I think. Right? Even though I dance to the
Although
Cure.
I did used to play Celebrity Skin when I DJed, so you can dance to anything. But I can't remember what the fuck we were talking about.
Well, it's more than...
Your solo album.
Also, I might have to leave you to answer the questions because they're obviously not for me and I have to babysit. You guys have been so amazing. Mark Ronson, everybody. I wish you Mark Ronson. This book is so fucking good. I didn't touch on half of what I loved about it. So yeah, please hang.
Oh my god, did I take this thing off? It's okay. It's okay.
We have a question from a young journalist in here. I'd like to take it.
He has it. I don't know what time is it. It's my mic working.
We have a question from a young journalist back here.
Of course.
Is that right?
Is that what it's
Hello. Yeah.
Good night, Mark.
Good night. Hello. So nice to say something. But you mentioned frequently how male-dominated the rock industry was in the 90s and kind of coming up as a woman in this industry. And I was in the rock band in high school and it was very male-dominated. There were only a few women there. What advice do you have to young women now that are maybe entering male-dominated fields, either as musicians or in other careers, or women that are currently in male-dominated fields, and how to kind of work through that?
Well, a few things, obviously, as I said earlier, is that we just have to keep fighting for ourselves and each other, and remembering we can't take any of this stuff for granted. But already I mentioned my mother in the 60s and 70s, pioneer feminist, did everything no one else was doing, or they were breaking down walls. So much has been done for us already, and so obviously there's a lot of women in music at the moment, so it's a very interesting time of actual female pop power, even a little bit of rock. Olivia Rodrigo. It's a confusing, cool, exciting time for women in music. So I know you didn't just say women in music, but the male-dominated landscape. Are we talking about the White House? That's what we're talking about, because there's so many. I would almost at any time say the same thing, which is that you have to work hard, believe in yourself, know who you are, know what makes you happy, because then you're gonna, what makes you happy will make you work hard. Like it doesn't matter whether you're male, female, non-male or female, it's just, you gotta just know who you are and stick to your guts, your guns, whatever version it is that we're always gonna be, you're always, I mean, I guess in the 90s it did seem like a big, like, the rock is a male-dominated thing. Music is more morphed now, so I don't even really know whether, I would just say play rock music no matter what gender you are. Just play, and I feel like it's coming, I feel excitement, it's coming back, but I would say always good to be going where other people aren't. Like, try to push on the edges. I mean, that's just what I like to do, I guess, and represent the other perspective and flip it upside down. And if that makes you feel excited and alive, just keep pushing and challenging yourself, really, and but also honoring what makes you click and tick. Like, just don't listen to other people unless they're trying to save your life because you're a drug addict. But like, listen to, trust yourself.
Hello. Hi. First of all, congratulations on the book.
Oh, thank you.
And this might be a bit of a...
Thank you. This is a bit of a two-sided question. So, as a mom, and as you just mentioned, with the political climate that we're having, and coming from a creative background, as one of us you have shared with us, how are you sharing this with your daughter, who you mentioned earlier, and the next generation, as far as like a passing of the baton of sorts? Just curious, from a mom, party mom, band mom perspective.
Did anybody, I haven't yet, but anyone seen me on the Drew Barrymore show today? That's really what we talk about. I mean, it's a very sweet conversation in that we're two trippy, hippie girls in the 90s. We really liked each other then because there was something more dreamy about us. We didn't have, like, we had different lives, obviously, but we really connected during the moment where she used to be around our band. And I haven't seen her in 20 years, and I joined her on our show, which, has anyone watched the Drew Barrymore show? It's very, like, positive, women-focused, and the whole conversation was about being mothers and what are we to do and what is our, and you know, I guess you're asking about the political, you know, landscape. That's what you're saying, is how to, not
just politically, but more so as a mom, and not necessarily just as mom maternally, but like as a party mom. It seems like you were kind of like a force within whatever band you were in.
Yeah.
As far as like taking care of others and nurturing.
Oh, yeah, I
So,
see, good point.
passing the baton in that way, especially having a daughter with the current political climate, that's more where I'm...
Right. Well, the current political climate is hard for every single position in the world at this moment. Even like prime ministers of other countries, it's almost impossible. So, I mean, I think, you know, being a parent, as anyone in here who knows, is a work in progress, and I choose my moments. I'm very clear about inappropriate ways of presenting females on the internet. I'm incredibly, regularly, annoyingly pointing out the algorithms to make girls think about how they look, and I feel like that has gone like decades backwards. I have no idea what is happening right now with this beauty thing. It's crazy. Like the look of pornography for teenagers is so terrible. So I focus on that a lot in a sort of, you know, in a playing up my annoying, like, this is my job, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you, like, this is not healthy, this is not what you should be thinking about in your body and how you look at yourself and showing yourself to other people. I feel like that's my priority for a 14-year-old girl at this moment. Yeah, but it's gonna keep going.
I'm told we have time for one more question. Now, there's a stage left or stage right?
person right here that I said yes to a long time ago.
Yes.
This kind of floats off someone sitting over there talking about your solo album
Yeah.
stuff. I saw a video of you recently, and it was like, it might have been the Cure Festival, where your movement on bass. And I play bass, and I sing on bass. Towards the beginning of the conversation, you had talked about going from like A to Z, just like buying a bass, and then you're like playing to 64,000 people. When did singing on bass click for you? Did it feel like just a moment, or did you kind of like slide into it?
I mean, like in the book, I talk about arriving in Seattle to meet this band that I don't want to join, but then I end up joining all very strangely in like a course of 3 days. And I am playing bass, and I heard Live Through This, and we were playing just as Courtney wasn't even there for these sort of run-throughs, and then she walked into the middle of the room, in the middle of dull parts, started singing, and I just walk up to the mic and sing the backups because I sang in choirs, and I know how to sing, and that was a big moment for me and her. And when I really realized I was joining the band and I was the correct fit, is that I could sing. And I actually didn't quite know that I could sing and play bass. I just did it at that time, and then I did a lot of that with Hole, so I got very, very comfortable singing and playing bass, which is not the common, I already got to talk about today, my favorite lead singer, bass players: Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, Peter Steele from Typo Negative, Lemmy from Motorhead, and Geddy Lee from Rush. And so there's only so many, of like super, now there's more because there's more of everything. But it wasn't until I made my solo records when I had to be a front person for every singing. It's one thing to sing backups, but I was a front person and playing a bass, and that was like a very, again, back to challenging yourself, like this is hard, I'm just going to do it. I don't know, but it's probably bought me like a decade of life because it's a good dexterity rear brain thing. I recommend it.
Shout the phrase.
I got a cool question.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, you don't have to say that. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
Put your hands together.
I am very grateful. I'm also very hopeful that that music and books are going to make the future better. And I am here to also tell you there's some cameras here. There's did I mention Canada enough or not? Probably not, but it's where I'm from. It is a very, everywhere it's got problems, but there are superior things happening in Canada, including a publicly funded National Film Board of Canada and CBC, the Canadian Broadcast Company. And there is a documentary on sites right now. We are working on an interesting investigation of the last analog decade and the magic that we must retrieve, and they would love to speak to you. If you have anything you'd like to share with us, the camera is here. There's the person here, Jennifer.
And we're going to be in the back.
Oh yeah,
there.
so there's a far back corner.
Just come, it won't take long.
Just anything. Share the love, because what we're trying to do is make a documentary that captures you here right now in the 21st century, that know that we're losing something, or what is it that you want back, or what is it that we have that you want more of. Just tell the camera so we can get it on record, we can write a petition, and we can cancel the internet.